I'm at the University of Eindhoven, where I just gave a talk for Studium Generale about human augmentation. Well, after my presentation, which you can see in another video, there was a Q&A with the audience. So that's in this video. It's a deep dive into the topic of human augmentation.
Yes, Peter, thank you very much for this introduction. I'm just going to make some space here.
Yeah.
Thanks. This introduction, also sharing, of course, all the considerations that you have to take into account when working on these kind of technologies. There's a lot still to discuss, and you're also very much invited online to put your questions in the chat. And then also, of course, if there are already questions in the room, feel free to raise your hand. There's one up here. The catch box is... Yeah. Would you like to throw the catch box?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Thanks. So first of all, thank you for the presentation. I was wondering, what's the coolest application in terms of human augmentation you've tested so far, and what are you looking forward to the most in terms of what's coming up?
The coolest?
Nice question.
Let me think. So the question is, what's the coolest and what type of augmentation I most look forward? So I think the coolest is, the human of the brain-computer interface. I think it's pretty cool, especially because of the future applications. And one aspect I'm really looking forward to is actually the merger of some technologies. For example, I also spoke with Danny, and he's paralyzed from about here till there, and now he can walk with an exoskeleton. But what I did not know is that an exoskeleton is pretty rudimentary. So you put push on a button, and then you walk, and then you walk. You know. But I read about an article where in a research institution in France, they also tested a combination of a brain-computer interface and an exoskeleton. So I hope for a future that for these kinds of people, then when you think of moving, then also the exoskeleton moves. So I think that's one of the application I look forward to the most. Thank you.
Can I ask us a follow-up question to that? Because, of course, there are going to be more really fascinating developments that everyone would really like to join in on. At the same time, we're already living in a society that's really technology-driven, and that people really have a FOMO, right? Whether it is for online platforms or whatever. What do you anticipate for that?
Well, I'm sort of also more scared of that future.
Okay. In what way?
Now, well, that's an interesting, because what you see right now when you look at the big tech companies in Silicon Valley and probably also elsewhere, is they gain a lot of profits from their current data model with selling our personal data and advertisements, and so they got a lot of money. But you see that they're now also investing in. Some of them are investing also in these augmentation technologies. Mm-hmm. For example, Facebook is also working on a device which you like sort of bracelet, and it could interpret it when you would click with your finger. So you did before you click your finger, so you don't have to click with your finger anymore. That makes sense. And in that way, you could have think of a thumbs up, and then the device will give it thumbs up.
You could without having to press.
Yeah, that's a summary. Okay. And I think that's sort of scary. When these kinds of companies come, they already have our data on what we like and what we swipe and how we think. But next up, will they really hack into our brains? I think so. These issues concerning privacy and data ownership, they become even more important with the age of these augmentation technologies, especially when it's concerning our brain data.
Yes, and we already know that companies like Facebook are very good at drawing our attention in and keeping that attention there.
Yeah, so. So especially when we live in the metaverse with a brain-computer interface, is that a utopia or dystopia? Well, I think at the moment I prefer this reality, but yeah.
What about you in the room? Is that something you look forward to?
Not so much.
After this explanation, maybe less. Okay, other questions for Peter? Could you throw the catch box to the person over there?
Hello, thank you for the presentation, first of all. And my question is concerning that. So, all these implementations in our body, at what point would you say that we become more than humans? Because at the end, if you change all the wood of the ship, you're no longer the same ship that you were before. So what would you say?
Yeah, I think that also our vision of what it is to be human and what is it to be more than human also changes over time. So that was also one of the factors, criteria in the study by the Rathenau Institute I mentioned. So take, for example, I'm not familiar with when coffee was invented, but probably around, I don't know, 1200s, when there were some people that were using coffee and they were, whoa, I have major focus and major concentration. Maybe at that time that was thought that drinking coffee was a sort of that you would be more than human. And now we think that's normal and we look at other things. So I think also the meaning of what it is to be human also changes over time. So I think that's also a fluid concept, as you could say. Yeah.
There are some, I'm just going to move to some questions online. Some of them are about your implant. Someone is asking, can I shake your hand to extract money from you? Which is maybe more interesting than because how do you protect that?
Well, it's the same kind of technology like in your bank card, but also you can now pay with your smartwatch or with other wearable technologies. So you can put a limit on the amount.
On your hand.
Yeah, I can put a limit on the amount on my hand, and I think above 50 euros or something, I also have to put my code with alongside with the chip. So.
Okay. And there's someone asking, do you think there are any applications that should always remain off limits, ethically speaking?
So some applications that remain off limits. Well, there's some talk about. There's an interesting TED talk by Joosten. I think the Team Heart people know of him. He's also he's working on prosthetics and he also has a prosthetic himself, and which also allows him. He's also avid a mountaineer to climb certain routes that other people, regular people, cannot climb because of his prosthetic. But it's also in this field. There's also talk about now our biological legs and arms are better than artificial ones. But maybe in the future you have better artificial legs and arms than biological ones. And for me, that's off limits. That I think, well, I'm not if I'm healthy to replace this biological hand for an artificial one. But there are some people that say, yeah, if it's a better artificial hand, just give it to me. But
because
for me,
why is that off limits?
Well,
what in that makes it off limit?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I think I really like my biological parts. So, and I'm also, I think, a little bit warned by the story of the second side users. When a company gets out of business, well, how do you deal with the maintenance and the upgrades? So, but it's another story that then when I, because of an accident, maybe lose my arm, then it's an interesting question. Would I, if it's possible, have an arm with the same kind of capabilities I have right now? Or maybe I want to have a super arm that makes me do better these kinds of fights. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah.
It's interesting to see where is the line exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess that's different for everyone as well.
I think that's different for everyone. Yeah.
Has already been answered. There is one up here. If you can throw the catch box. Yeah. We will get you a new head. Yeah.
Thanks. I think that's off limit for now.
Yeah, probably. And too difficult, yeah.
So thank you for your presentation. I was actually thinking about your story playing soldier in the woods. And I was wondering what your thoughts are about human augmentation and then the new type of discrimination that might occur from that. Say that you would have been a super soldier when you were a child, and you would have something that better eyesight, could run faster. Would your friends still want to play with you?
Wow, that's a good question. This also has to do with what are your goals in life, I presume. And I think, especially as a child, the most important thing is that your fellow friends they like you. But it also makes me think about a criticism that also famous scholar Yuval Noah Harari gave in his book Homo Deus. He also wrote *Sapiens*, for example. Is where he warns that, and that also kind of made me think about your comment earlier, that he says now there's maybe a social difference between people of certain groups, and also maybe a cultural difference and in income, but he warns not only also genetic modification and other things, that it also can lead to a biological difference between people, between the haves and the have-nots, that are smarter, live longer, are richer. So I think that's also indeed a valid concern, and also makes me think about what's important in life. So yeah, great question.
Any comments maybe from Team Hart? Your front, or any questions? You have a question? Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the presentation as well. I have a question again about the children playing. About the children playing in the field. So, as a parent, you have a new child. What is your right to augment your child?
Yeah, like the South Park clip, actually.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, because last September I also became father for the first time of a little boy. And
how many chips does he have already?
Yeah, 10. No, sorry, before this gets a meme on the internet. 0. And yeah, that really also made me think, like, if I want to tinker with my own body, that's my problem or my right or whatever. And I think that's also because I was raised here in the Netherlands, that autonomy is very important. And I think the same would apply to our child, that if he wants to do these things, he has to do it when he's 18, I think. So, and also raising a child now for almost 6 months also made me aware that technology can fix a lot of things, but you also have to, he's also, just as I am lucky to be born in the Netherlands with loving parents. And so there's also a question about how much can technology fix, and also how much is luck, and also having a close relationship with your relatives and these kinds of things. So yeah, I kind of became more nuanced after I became a newborn father, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's of course interesting, because this is a person that doesn't have autonomy yet, and you as a parent, yeah, kind of you can rule over that child, so to say.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
If you've thought about this carefully, of course, but perhaps not everyone does this in future.
Yeah, I think so, and it is quite funny, by the way. That is this Friday. It's the 1st of April. Yeah, a couple of years ago there was a commercial by MediaMarkt. On the 1st of April, when they said, now you can buy implants for your children, so you can track them everywhere. Yeah. And they got a lot of attention, a lot of interest for that commercial. But it was an April Fool joke. So, but I would not allow that.
It's perhaps worrisome if it's so popular.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I see we're running out of time. So for now, we have to finish this program. Thank you once again, Peter, for telling us more about the great opportunities, but also the pitfalls, or the possible pitfalls, as ever. Peter, Joosten.